All right. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, EJ.
Great to see you, Matt. So just wanted to introduce you to everybody here to the audience today. So I'm here with Matt Adams here from RouteMe. I was really excited to get a chance to interview you because I really find your technology really quite amazing. We're obviously at the IDN directory here in the business of access. We're trying to get people focused on accessing IDN leaders in supply chain and in purchasing through a SaaS platform, the IDN directory. And what I really love is, access is important, whether it's through call points and decision makers, but being a guy who's been in the hospital space for quite a bit and being a former athlete and having to go to hospitals quite a bit for treatment, I didn't always find it simple to navigate those places. And I know RouteMe has some really amazing technology, and I wanted to kind of ask you some questions about it today because I find what you're doing very exciting. So I'll get right into it. You know, it sounds like, RouteMe was designed to kind of make hospital navigation stress-free for everyone. And so I'd like you to walk us through kind of like some of your accessibility features. Like you guys have a very unique kind of appless access. You also offer multilingual support, ADA compliant routing. So how does this actually work for patients in kind of the real world?
So great question, and thank you so much for the introduction. I'll tell you, when I first originally saw your content online, I immediately knew that you were going to be somebody that I wanted to reach out to because I feel like your alignments and even just mention of the word access, it's really what it's all about for patients. So routing is a really brand new technology, AI driven. We took failures that have happened within indoor wayfinding and shortfalls in delivering access to patients, and really just had a massive consumer obsession about delivering access to the consumer market. And what we do is multilingual navigation support. I think when you saw the application first, PJ, one of the first things that you saw that is different is it's three-dimensional. It's immersive. It's not the two-dimensional blue dot experience that has been the typical standard. And consumers largely just did not appreciate that experience. They wanted something more. They wanted something that was going to be more accessible to them and their needs. And so that's what the routing team did over the last 3 years. We've been iterating development. The team has failed quite a bit, but in every failure, our focus has not been technology or hardware or future ROI potentials. It is simply, is this going to impact a human positively? And the answer to that question we found initially was no, but where we've arrived today is yes. Multilingual support. You arrive at the hospital, you scan a QR code or an NSD beacon, the app immediately deploys. You don't even have to download the app. There's no email. There's no privacy invasion with cookies. Um, Immediately, you've got that navigation in your language, voice narrated for folks who suffer from visual impairments. We have accessibility toggles within the hospitals for folks who struggle with mobility impairments. So we aimed to be able to quite literally help everybody. That's our job. That's our mission. And that extends to the healthcare systems as well. The operators that are using this within the systems, that's probably been one of the most amazing parts. I'd be happy to tell you more about that as well. But that's really the genesis of it. Patients are using it in various different ways. It's highly accessible. I think you're going really well in that regard.
No, that's fantastic and a really kind of great explanation of kind of how it benefits the public. I would like to take that a little further. And so obviously we're talking about, changing the patient experience on the navigation side, trying to get access into the hospital, knowing where to go. How would you say RouteMe has kind of changed the experience for patients who may have language barriers, visual impairments, or even mobility challenges? Because that's obviously a real thing. And do you have any really stories or feedback from patients or families that kind of stand out?
Absolutely. So one of our benchmarks that we look at, the biggest thing for us right now in our startup phase is usage. In fact, we want to see as much of it as possible. And on the back end of our analytics, really some of the cool stuff. So we're deployed in major markets, complex Naki indoor navigation facility, JFK Airport Terminal. We're in a major market hospital. We have thousands upon thousands of users. 10% of those users in our early pilots are using accessibility features. So they're using the translation. They're using the mobility impairment access, meaning that we are providing access, reduction in anxiety, reduction in panic before going to a hospital. Some of the hospitals that we're at currently right now are very complex to navigate. And we have plenty of data points to share that show the anxiety that a patient experiences before they go to an appointment. They oftentimes end up not going and not receiving care that they genuinely need, because the whole idea about going to the hospital is too intimidating for them. You have neurodivergent individuals who don't like large crowds, and to them, they want to kind of isolate a little bit so they can block out that fear of being around a crowd of too many people. RouteMe offers that to people. We want people to be able to access the world with full comfort, with independence and dignity, just like everybody else has. That we make you look at that like it's just commonplace, but it's not for everybody, but it should be. And that's where we're taking them.
No, I mean, that's very telling. And one thing you said there that was really, really, really kind of perked my interest is that, when people don't show up for appointments, that's lost revenue for the hospital. So that becomes a big problem. And so I'd like to you were talking about kind of that sentiment of making people feel more comfortable about the experience. You mentioned that RouteMe can kind of reduce anxiety and improve satisfaction. And so what would you say your pilot results right now have shown in terms of kind of patient sentiment and the confidence before and after using the wayfinding solution that you guys provide?
Yeah, I always want to operate transparently with our business. We're a bit limited in being able to parse out the net effect of that data presently. Our early implementations have been limited to just patients that are already at the hospital. And in future implementations is really where we can start steering that wellness piece and driving not necessarily just reduction in no-shows, which we certainly will, but encouraged shows, if you will. All too often, we have patients who go to a hospital, they meet with the provider says, we need you to get this lab. Well, the patient leaves the hospital because they don't know where that lab is. It's a friction point for them. If we can take that patient who was just given that order and guide them straight to the lab, that's where we want to be. It's additional revenue for the systems, one, but it's wellness for the patients. And that's really the big win for us. So we're actively working on integrations right now, PJ, that are going to really kind of ramp up that usage. It's going to kind of change the scope about RouteMe and what all we're capable of. Dynamic rerouting becomes a possibility for us. Aside from the benefits in accessibility, one of the other things that we haven't even talked about yet is emergency evacuation. RouteMe and the ability to dynamically reroute. If there's a facility emergency and we have to evacuate, oftentimes it's very difficult to disseminate a message to the entire facility and all of the occupants of that facility that says, hey, the emergency is over here, so we need you to go over here. That's really difficult. But with RouteMe, we can do that immediately, one step, and we are guiding you in if the emergency is east, we're taking you west. And our early data says that we should be aiming for a 30% increase in speed to evacuation. 30% more people getting out of the building faster in the event of an emergency. And I hope that the day never comes, but we truly do have the potential to save lives. I look at it like a human being being caught in a smoke-filled building with an illuminated phone that they can speed up the playback as they're running to get themselves out of the building. I don't want that to ever be the case, but if it does need to be the case, RouteMe will be there for it.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I can't say I've ever been in a critical situation in a hospital, but due to the size of those facilities, I would like to think, and I could truly see how your tool can be useful, because in a situation like that, you need to get out quickly. And if you're frantic and things are frantic and there's chaos going around you, having that straight shot to the exit and giving you the safest route is really, 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 really amazing that you guys can do that with RouteMe. Yeah.
where you've got the access on the front end, but the safety on the back end. Everybody's included all the time.
Yep. No, I mean that's amazing. I'd like to go back to one topic you were talking about, where we were talking about kind of like no-shows and maybe late arrivals for appointments. And so that's something that obviously many hospitals struggle with. The no-show, the late arrival, it backs up the schedule. It can cause even people to have to cancel their appointments. How does RouteMe's approach kind of to pre-visit route previews? Because I know you were talking about pre-visit route previews and real-time navigation. How does that directly impact those issues?
Well, when we get to the point of integration, we're going to be able to have pre-deploy and post-deploy members. In the indoor wayfinding market right now, you've got about 12% market penetration. So there's only limited amounts of data that we can work off of that suggests reduction in no-shows, operational savings, reduction in FTEs or volunteers that are spending their time wayfinding in the hospital. You've got doctors and nurses and janitors, everybody included, that are helping people navigate to where they need to be. On a no-show side of the equation, the academic benchmark suggests that if you can preview the route before you have to go to where you're going, it's going to reduce the friction in your willingness to go to where you need to get to. And again, if you also know that RouteMe can translate that route for you, imagine how many people out there just don't go to the hospital because they're worried about that communication barrier at the front desk. I say, think for the people working on the other side of the front desk, you know that people are there for care, and you want to be able to help them, and you can't communicate with them. RouteMe bridges that gap, and we want that for everybody. The cost side of the equation alone, I think one of the things that's been eye-opening for me is this kind of diversity in the market with, a lot of folks who are very ROI focused in terms of the dollars to cents, but not so focused on the ROI to the consumer. And that's the other thing where we really need to bridge the gap. RouteMe is not a nice to have; it's a need to have for a great deal of people. And we need to get the market to the point to understanding we need to deliver this for people.
No, I mean that's a fantastic answer. Wonderful way to position that. So I'm this next question actually that I want to ask you is kind of in my wheelhouse a little bit. Operational efficiency is basically the MO of what I try to help promote through my platform, the IDN directory. So I'm always trying to get my people to be able to access these supply chain leaders so that they can provide products that are going to create operational efficiency. Turns out RouteMe can do that as well. And so I would ask a little bit about that, being the fact that operational efficiency is such a huge focus for health systems today. Can you share a little bit about how RouteMe has kind of helped hospitals free up staff time and improve patient flow? Because that costs a lot of money if it's not being managed properly.
Yeah, so a lot of variables to the equation here with integrations. One of the things that has happened that has been fantastic for us is arriving at partnership with these hospitals and really getting an understanding of what patient experience looks like within the system is helping us to navigate those operational efficiencies, the reduction in no-shows. But moreover, what you're talking about is that flow within the system. System averages $40 an hour in terms of wages from the research that we have. And so when a doctor has to navigate a patient and a nurse has to navigate a patient, that's diluting their ability to deliver high quality care. And we need our doctors to be in the rooms with the patients delivering that care. And AI in general, not just for RouteMe, but AI is allowing a lot more of that, and I'm very excited for that. But I want to go back to what you're talking about with supply chain. I worked around device sales for quite a bit, more on the discount side of the equation, trying to save folks money than keep people to these outrageous spend commitments. But supply chain is kind of near to my heart. I know many people that work in supply chain. I know many of my friends that work in these systems that are quite frankly having to lay off their own friends, their own team members right now. Health systems are struggling, no doubt about it. And considering what the history of indoor wayfinding has been, it was always heavy CapEx up front. It was always cost. So nobody could do it. Nobody could take that on, especially with the failures in the past of what indoor wayfinding looked like. Right now, with RouteMe and the evolution of technology and where we have arrived today, There is no CapEx for our solution. There's no upfront investment. We go straight to the OpEx dime, and we start delivering savings immediately. Um, this is 2025 regulatory changes when it comes to MIPS pathways that can free up credit flow for these hospitals. And put yourself in the situation of a supply chain team member right now. You have staff. You're maybe having to let them go. They have been busting their tails to do a great job for the system for a very long time. If you want to talk about an industry or a sector or a profession that has been behind the scenes really making things work for healthcare, when Helene came through last year, everybody jumped on board to help Baxter.
Right.
That IV bag situation was critical.
What?
And it was one of the most just great things to see everybody come together, everybody start talking. How are we going to solve this for patients? And in my 10 years in 15 years at this point in healthcare, it's easy to be frustrated about the system and some of the parameters that we have to work with, particularly in supply chain. They need money for products and they can't get it. And they're having to make substitutions for products, for inferior products, to deliver to a doctor who wants to be in the OR delivering the best for their patients. And that's the system. And I think right now we're at this kind of inflection point with the system where we realize that it's not working as good as it once did. And I think during these times, if we get loud enough, we can start to make change. And money is what it comes down to for the supply chains right now. They need it. They need it for patients. It's not because of profit. Most hospitals right now aren't turning a profit. Period. They're deeply in the red. They're on the verge of bankruptcy, and yet the system is set up such that we make it incredibly difficult for them to save money and have access to the tools that they need. The people is what makes the system great, and the people are the only thing that are holding this up. Supply chain is a large part of that. So if RouteMe can offset costs, help drive ROI in that regard, in addition to providing the best-in-class indoor wayfinding solution in market right now, I guarantee that we're going to be real happy to do so.
No, I mean, I love that you're on this mission. It's kind of a similar mission that I'm on, is to try to make supply chains better, because obviously you displayed it. The supply chain is the central nervous system of the hospital. And when that fails and when that struggles, it just impacts everything. And so I actually have an interesting question here for you. Being an old IT guy, integration. Integration is something that can slow down operational efficiency with the goal of making operational efficiency greater over time. But obviously, while it's happening, it can be a very slow, kind of drawn out process. And so I would ask you guys, because when we talked back maybe a couple of weeks ago, integration, obviously, it's a huge barrier for new tech in healthcare. Always will be. It takes time, it takes money, and it takes vision. How does RouteMe work with existing platforms? For example, like obviously there's tons of EHR systems out there, but like Epic MyChart, for example, one of the more common ones. How do you guys ensure seamless adoption and measurable returns in health systems with kind of with those types of integrations?
So, great question. You're absolutely right that integrations are going to be a bear. They're probably going to change things in terms of our capacity. Our feature set is going to become far more rich. But I will tell you this: in healthcare, in indoor wayfinding in particular, you've had the tech giants that have been at this for the last 5-10 years, and haven't had the best results. And we've been part of that party as well. Our founders have been with those bigger companies, failing along the way. We finally arrived at something that works. How are we different in working with a system from an IT perspective in those integrations versus what corporate technology is? Corporate technology and the bigger companies, if you need a change, 3, 4, 5, 6 months approvals, have to go to this department before we can make a change. We have a very, very tight development team. When we need to pivot in an integration, when we need to produce, we know our solution like the back of our hands. We have extremely talented developers on our team, some of the leading minds in AI and machine learning. Give a heart brighter than that. And when opportunities come up for feature improvements, when integrations become challenging, that nimbleness of being small right now, but I look at it as like a peppercorn, small but a lot of flavor to it. So that's kind of where we are. We're going through this integration process. I will tell you that we have a small team, but we're mighty. These are senior executives that have hundreds, if not thousands, of enterprise deployments from a program management perspective. We are committed to all SLAs in our contracts, 100% uptime, service desks. All of these variables are being put into place, and we've had to do this very quick. One of the best things that I have seen in healthcare is these people coming together for this startup over the last few months. Not really working for anything yet because the contracts haven't started to come in. They're on their way, but this group is just here for the mission, and I love every bit of that.
No, that's wonderful. The mission is the important. That's what gets us up in the morning, and that's what keeps us moving forward. I'm fully invested in that same mission you are, maybe in a little bit of a different way, but I think we're on the same page. It's how do we make hospitals run better? How do we make the patient care and the continuum of care be able to keep happening at a rate that is good for the hospital, but also most importantly good for the patient? And so. Yeah. I'm going to switch off the hospital side for just a second because obviously I'm so enthralled with this product, right? RouteMe seems like it could have so many other use cases. And so I would ask you, the need for accessible navigation, it's not limited to just hospitals, in my opinion. What are some of the other markets or maybe facility types that you're seeing strong demand from? And really, how scalable is RouteMe's solution across other sectors?
It's an incredibly difficult question because with the small team and the traction that we have, we really want to consolidate and focus our markets to where we know that we have had success and where we're going to be most effective. But that said, this market is changing, it's evolving, and smart buildings are coming into the equation where all sorts of things come into the equation. In future state RouteMe is going to look probably very different than it does today. Based upon the industry that's in. We have major market pilots, like I was mentioning before, at JFK Airport Terminal. That relationship has turned into global deployments. So we're going to be in 70 airports around the world.
That's awesome.
We have conversations going on with some of the entities in Dubai right now. Never been. Hopefully we make that happen. It would be interesting. Every system that we've talked to is kind of coming to the fold on the health side of the equation. But hotel, travel, leisure, airports, conference centers, even the conferences themselves, where you attend a conference, I can set up routes to guide you through this booth or that.
I see, that's great.
It really takes me not a whole lot to do that. I kind of want to add here the health systems, and we didn't really touch on this. Compared to other IBW solutions in the past, this translates to all markets. There's no disruption, a little bit no disruption. We come in, we do a project plan day one, we map everything out that you want for routes. We come in overnight so that there's no disruption to your operations. Produce everything that we need to get done, process it, and you're up and running with full enterprise facility-wide indoor wayfinding in a matter of 3 weeks. That's unheard of. Nobody's done that, especially to the tune of 96.5% satisfaction amongst all users. In our airlines, we're going to be starting to be getting added to email distributions so that every flight that is booked through this airline for their 30 million passengers that travel through their airline every year, they'll be getting our routes. Let's talk about the scalability of that when it comes to media as well. Brand partnerships and sponsorships. I insert media in addition to navigation. So if you're in an airport and you're walking past Hudson News and you want a discount to be served in your native language for 5% off of this magazine or this head pillow or what have you, I'm probably one of the only company that can do that. And so I don't know what that looks like yet. It hasn't really been my focus. We haven't been focused on consumer experience. The rest you can get figured out later.
No, but obviously there's a ton of opportunity there. That's the exciting thing, and you're already kind of cracking into the airport space, which is obviously being a guy who has terrible sense of direction, I'll come out and say it. RouteMe seems like it could help me out a lot amongst many other people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of shift back here to health systems here just for our last few questions, because I have about 3 more questions here for you. So for health systems kind of considering RouteMe, what would you say is, we've talked about a lot of compelling pieces here, but what would you say is the most compelling reason to invest in accessibility right now and digital wayfinding at this time?
Yeah. It's simply needed. It is. I had an experience. And I'll tell you exactly why this is important. About a week and a half ago, I've been working a lot. I want to take my daughter out on the weekend when it's Busch Gardens. I just got out of a heart procedure. I've had 7 heart procedures, and I'm cured as of last December. So I wanted to go big. We did the ultimate pass. We were riding coasters all day long. We get to Iron Gwazi. Iron Gwazi is a new coaster at Busch Gardens. Absolutely crazy, fantastic, super fast, lots of fun. I'm a dad. I'm with my daughter. I don't have my wife. We're just having fun, just the 2 of us. In the car ahead of us, the train ahead of us, there's another dad with his daughter. His daughter's only 2 years older than mine. He's a bigger guy, not obese, not out of shape. He's just a JUCO offensive lineman. This is built. But this man, the staff had to come over. They're pressing on the harness to keep him in, to try and get it to glitch so that he can have that experience with his daughter. I wrote the card out. He was forced to remove. He was visibly upset. His daughter was upset. He wanted to have that experience with his daughter. His daughter wanted him to have it with her as well. He didn't get to do that. He didn't have that accessibility. And on my way up with my daughter, I told my daughter, I said, this is what your dad is working on right now. This is what our team is working on right now. Accessibility for everybody. To allow people to operate their lives in the way that everybody else who doesn't have the limitations that other people experience, and maybe it's not relatable to them. That's why the building management says, well, this is a nice to have. No, it is not. It is a need for many people. And the market, forget about the ROI. I can go about the ROI all day long until I'm blue in the face. And it's there, and it's going to help us. And I want to do that. And I'll tell you another thing. We're not going to the ROI that we stand to offer is substantial. And as a result, we could say, well, that value is substantial, so we're going to jack our prices up. No, it doesn't materially change the service that we offer. The service is the same. The benefits are what we need to get to the consumers. And so cost stays the same. We know what our costs are for deployment. We want that accessibility. That's the big driver that the market needs to get to. I think in healthcare, a lot of times and this is some of the best feedback that we have received. One of our first healthcare systems said, Matt, and Demas, our other founder, we're on this session, and they said, do you know how many times we invest in technology that all this money that just doesn't work, and nobody uses it? Right. So here we have this pilot, and people are using it, and we're talking about ROI. And this system was great because they said, Matt, we don't even want to talk about the ROI. We just want to talk about the fact that patients are loving this. And I'm like, it's perfect. Can we all be this way? and staff are loving it. New orientations coming through that don't know how to navigate the hospital. Residents who don't know how to navigate the hospital, getting to where they need to go to learn. There's somebody coming in to cover a case, they can get you there. And all of that is about driving change in healthcare, accessibility. I had to go back to that whole GME saga with GameStop, and then it was like power to the players when everybody was taking advantage of the market in the system. Power to patients, power to providers. That's what RouteMe is. That's my opinion. That's my goal.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Absolutely. I mean, and this, just like you said, it doesn't just help the patients. It could help new staff that's getting acclimated to the environment so that they know where to go. I could tell you if I worked in a hospital, day one would be a little scary for me because, again, I don't have great sense of direction. And if I'm trying to get to a meeting and I'm getting held up, being able to have a tool that can get me from A to B quickly and keep me calm throughout that process of educating myself in the environment and also getting used to my coworkers in my environment. Ultimately, it can make or break your experience as a worker, and that's just on a work level. Forget about what it does for the patients, but like it's good for everybody. I mean, like you said, it's accessible for everybody, and that's something that I really really love.
You just mentioned one of the biggest things that's a problem right now: caregiver burnout. It's not just
100%.
your patients that are going through it. During my entire time going through everything with my heart, the only reason I made it through was because of my wife and the providers that I had. But these folks, the family members that have to care for their loved ones, that have to navigate the hospitals the same as the patients do, the providers that are getting pulled aside all the time to be able to assist with navigation, that are already overburdened by the responsibilities that they have with comorbidities and pathologies that are continuing to grow. The burden of disease in this country is going up. The availability of providers is going down. Their ability to manage all of this work is dwindling. What are we doing to help these people help these people?
That's right.
I mean, that's what it's all about.
You're absolutely right. You nailed it. I mean, help the healthcare providers do their job more efficiently. Patients will be the end result of that positive work, and I think that's really what it comes down to. And so, keeping on this topic here for kind of our last couple of questions is, how do you see RouteMe kind of contributing to broader goals like health equity, patient-centered care, and lastly, like digital transformation of healthcare?
Yeah. I'll tell you, in our launch strategy, we talked about this quite a bit. Most of what we do is obviously B2B. The people that we'll be talking to are the building managers, the facility ownership, and things like that. Where we really want to see change is in that it's a nice to have versus the market deserves this. It is quite frankly that simple. We have navigation that exists outside of the facilities, outdoors, but we don't have it indoors. And that's the most complex place for people to navigate, in my opinion. So that is the change that we are trying to drive, being ahead of the curve, accessible, everyone, and consumer-driven technology. All too often, we look at technology and we have this theory about this is what we think people will like. I don't know. Listen to what people tell you that they want, deliver it, and make it great. And that's exactly what we did. So I just think that in this future AI tech world that we are living in, human feedback loops are critical. We can mass produce as much as we want, but if people don't use it, what's the point? And if we wanted to be one of the ROI-driven companies out there, we probably would have done Blue Dot navigation and sold everybody the Bluetooth beacons that were highly unnecessary, and let everybody hold the bags like what has happened. But we're not doing that because it's people. They're at the end of this. Their experience is at the end of this. Forget about the Benjamins along the way. I'm worried about John, Sue, and Mary making it to Dr. So-and-so. That's where we're at.
No, I mean that's why you're invested in the mission. Like you said, the money comes from doing the good work. And I think you guys are doing the great work out there. And so this last question I have for you, it's kind of a bonus question, but it's more of a question from the heart here. And I really wanted to ask you this because we're talking about mission. We're talking about, making healthcare better, more accessible to everybody really in the space. But this had to start with some level of inspiration for you. And so I would ask you, what are really the big inspirations for you about, that most inspire you about making hospitals and maybe even other complex spaces more accessible for everyone? And lastly, a kind of a two-parter here, where do you see the biggest kind of untapped opportunities for patient impact through innovation?
Yeah. So I'll answer the last part of that first, inclusion. Everybody gets included. Yep. And I'm talking my personal motivation for this. It's really my own experience, as mentioned. I've had 7 cardiac procedures by the age of 39. I've got that pretty interesting case. And I relied on people to help me. I didn't rely on the system. In fact, I got pretty frustrated with the system having worked in it for so long. And in the throes of my health, I became kind of negative towards the system. It was only the people that got me out of that. And so I look at what's happening right now in health, the burnouts, the layoffs, the bankruptcies, the systems that are closing. It's never ending. If you pay attention to Becker's healthcare, you see all the financial struggles all day long. And I've seen that, and I want it to stop. I want to mitigate that as much as humanly possible. If we're talking about ROI for systems, I'm talking about things they can get out and get the supplies to keep their people employed. I'm not talking about it so we can jack up our price the front end. That's just not happening. And then, well, that's secondary. Primary, patients. When I was a patient and I was going through it with my heart, it was incredibly difficult for me to feel included because now I understood what I was going through with my issues. We understood what my family was going through. What changed that for me? Comfort in people. As far as their local, I won't name names. Try and keep things easier. And I don't even know if I'm allowed to do that, but their whole mind was whole person care. And what we called into this facility, whether it was me or my wife, they knew me by name, they knew my situation, and they genuinely cared about me. Technology companies need that level of care as well. On the front end, executive leadership, we don't need to be talking about ROI in the boardroom and driving that. I'll give you kind of a case in point for where this really landed me. I attended a conference last year, and when we go to the conferences, sometimes they give you the list of all the attendees with some issues that they might be having for their particular system. You go to one conference, and 90% of the attendees, this is like 3,000 people at this one conference, are saying that cost containment is the issue. Okay, costing. We need to save money. Where was this conference held? The Win. Black table, $100. $5 at the end.
Yeah.
$10 in the morning.
That's right.
I mean, fancy little tiramisus at the most luxurious hotel. Meanwhile, everybody that I'm talking to at this conference is like, please help. I can't afford anything. What are we doing here? So, RouteMe, we're having a retreat, and it's going to be in Bend, Oregon, in a cabin, in the woods, low costs, because that's what we want to do. We want to deliver value. And so, that's what motivates me.
Wow. Well, here's what I would say, and this is something that I can, I guess, extrapolate upon kind of as a finishing piece here. But beautiful answer to that question first off. And what I can see that RouteMe's done is that they've taken a business model and they said, we're going to put people first. We're going to put people first. And I think that the problem in healthcare today is that we see a mechanical framework with how this is supposed to work. And we forget that if we keep our people working well and keep them happy, keep them stress-free, that they provide the mechanical solutions for these hospitals to run properly. Rather than looking at it and saying, oh, there's this system and this is how it has to work from A to B, and forgetting about all the people that have to get it from A to B. Rather, you nurture the people and they create the positive mechanics that's going to make the hospital go well. Everybody has... Yeah, I mean, there's a framework for every business, and so there's protocols and processes that every business has to run. But I think like what you've said, when the people in that mechanic and that whole framework fall apart, then everything falls apart with it. But if we prop up our people, if we take care of them, if we give them what we need, the resources that we need, make their jobs easier so that they can focus 100% on those patients or the designations that they're hired for, the whole thing runs better. I think hospitals make more money. And it seems like it's such a small correction to be able to get that to work, but it's going to take a mountain. It's going to take an army of people. This same messaging that you and I are doing to keep reminding people like, hey, the products are there to serve the public, but let's not forget the mission the people, the patients, the workers that make these things go around. Because if you take all those people out of the equation, none of those products matter. None of that revenue matters. ROI doesn't even have a definition at that point. So really, thank you so much, Matt, for taking the time to meet with me today to get your message out about RouteMe. Very, very, very excited to see how this product revolutionizes healthcare. I'll be looking for you guys and I'll be rooting for you guys. And if there's anything I can do to help keep, getting the word out there, I'm going to tell all my friends about it. And, let's definitely stay in touch. And, looking forward for this audience to kind of learn more about RouteMe, and hopefully it creates good opportunity for you. And really, in the end, better opportunities for all of the people that are going to get served from this.
Yeah, and I would say the same, PJ. Thank you so much for the time and the platform to be able to get this out there. We've been excited to be able to do this. And arriving with you as kind of the launching point for getting this out to the market, I'll tell you, conversations that have happened off this free. I know you to be a genuine person with the intent to really help this market. So, folks, if you're out there and you need assistance in getting to the right people within these IDN systems, PJ's your man. Give him a call, give a ring, and he'll take care of you. But thank you once again, PJ.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Matt.
Take care.
Hey.